Welcome to Epicenter, the hub of innovation in the heart of Helsinki, where ideas come to life and creativity thrives, where innovation meets community. Get ready to learn, network, and make an impact. Let's go.
Let's go. Good morning, or good morning. Oh, good afternoon. How is everyone? Are you very excited to be here? Good. Okay. You see, now this is what we do. So I'm Joey. I'm the community manager here, and clearly not from Finland, right? So my soul is fed on applause, adoration, telling me I'm great. So we have there you see, gosh. So we have a tradition here at Epicenter Helsinki where we take the first 10 seconds of each event and we clap for ourselves. This sets the tone. This sets the safe space. It tells you that you're doing a great job for being here. It tells me that I'm doing a great job for getting you all here on a Wednesday in the rain. So first 10 seconds, please hoot, holler, clap for yourself. Go, go. Woo! You've got drinks in your hands. You're happy to be here. Okay, thank you so much. Okay, so I see a lot of familiar faces, so I'll keep the part about Epicenter short. But as we all know, Epicenter is a playground and a meeting arena where we work toward our vision to help innovate hotspots, supercharge their local entrepreneurial ecosystems. We support this by creating a physical space where networking, knowledge, and collaboration act as a platform for the acceleration of innovation and growth. All this means that we are here today to learn, to share ideas, and to network. And are we ready to do that? All right. So I love it. So Into the Metaverse, this is a monthly series where we look into various aspects of the Metaverse. This is the third event this year. We looked at the beginning, we talked about what is the Metaverse? Does it even exist? Is it just a fad or a talking point? And last month we looked at digital fashion, and more specifically, how designers have transitioned from the physical to the digital design. And today, we're going to talk about technology and society. So let's start with this. The Metaverse, or a network of fully immersive 3D worlds, has been gaining traction in recent years. It is a concept that describes a future version of the internet where virtual and physical reality are seamlessly integrated and users can engage with a wide range of experiences, activities, and services. As technology advances, the idea of a shared, persistent virtual space where people can interact and conduct business is becoming increasingly feasible. While the potential for new opportunities and experiences in the metaverse is exciting, there are also some concerns about the societal impact that could have. As we explore the potential benefits and drawbacks of the metaverse, it's crucial to consider how it will affect our communities, economies, and social structures, all of which we're going to talk about today. Yeah? Perfect. Deep stuff, right? Okay, so let's begin. Our first panelist is an XR enthusiast and the CEO of a Finnish metaverse company, Arilyn. As a geographer, she has a particular interest in human behavior and immersive spatial experiences. She is also a big fan of future technologies, art, and culture, and she has a soft spot for science fiction. And right now, she is totally inspired by music videos from the 80s. So please give a huge hand, Emmi, CEO and co-founder of Arilyn.
Hello.
Welcome.
Thank you.
Perfect. You can have a seat.
Thank you.
Awesome. Next, I'd like to welcome someone who has been in charge of producing some pioneering works, such as virtual concerts and cultural heritage experiences. She believes that technology is one of the biggest change makers, but is far too important to be left in the hand of tech enthusiasts only. Her own background is in marketing and journalism. Her Helsinki-based company, ZOAN, which was founded in 2010, comprises of a virtual studio, Cornerstone.land, and Metaverse and Burst Live Fanverse. Please help me welcome to the stage Laura, the CEO and head of studio of ZOAN. Thank you so much. We're going to begin. So because I read your bios, we're not going to do intros, and we're going to go right to the meat of the conversation. Is that okay?
Yeah.
Okay.
We are ready.
Okay. I'd like to talk a little bit about how the metaverse will impact our society in terms of economic growth and job creation. According to a report by McKinsey, the metaverse has the potential to generate up to $5 trillion in value by 2030. This revenue will come from various industries such as gaming, entertainment, education, and retail, which will create job opportunities for millions of people. So this question is, how will the metaverse impact job creation, upskilling, and what new industries do you think will emerge as a result?
That's quite a big question.
we start right at the beginning and really hard.
Yeah, and then if we think like that, yeah, that was from McKinsey, right? And then there was like Citibank who says that the impact is 13 trillion. So there are a lot of figures. But what I think it's really important to, first of all, like understand that we are talking about something that might be equally big or even bigger than internet and the digitalization. And then also metaverse, it's not only about technology, but it's more about like an infrastructure that is like enabling all these new kind of transactions and economy also. So we are talking about like virtualization, which means that certain things will get faster, we will get rid of some jobs, we will hopefully create a lot of new jobs, but then also there is a chance that there will be a totally new kind of economy, which means that, you know, it doesn't even have to be anything physical, and that's also very interesting. So I probably didn't answer to your question, but I'm trying to say that it is very hard to say, but the impact will probably come from many, many different sources, and we have no idea what all of those sources will be.
Mm. Yeah, I think it's quite fascinating to think that actually that 4 or 5 years from now, you could say that your workplace is metaverse. Where do you work? Well, I'm at metaverse. I'm the metaverse manager of some company or something. So I think that there will be that kind of jobs. But then we are already seeing kind of like new types of. You mentioned the virtual fashion that you had the previous panel. So that's one. Kind of like market vertical, which is kind of like very fast adapting to the metaverse. So there are new industry kind of like growing up as we speak. It's kind of like, because there is a clear way how they can kind of like benefit from that. If you are now selling kind of like physical bags or shirts or shoes or something, why not scale that to the metaverse? There are already game platforms where you can dress up your avatar with those clothes. So soon it will be more. So it's kind of like very clear that there are industries that will just hop into metaverse.
Yeah, and then like adding to that also that there are some fashion companies, like I don't know if you talked about it last time when you talked about fashion, but that are purely like Web3 fashion companies, like for instance the Fabricant that is partly Finnish. So that wouldn't even exist without the metaverse. So they don't even have anything physical. So how I always think is that there is this chance how existing businesses will go to the metaverse, but then metaverse will be an enabler to some businesses to start existing that wouldn't even be there if it wasn't for the metaverse and all the opportunities over there.
Yeah. Well, we talk a lot about foreign talent in Finland more specifically. So what are we saying? Is it, you know, temperature on how metaverse will affect upskilling for, you know, current talent and leading that to attract foreign talent?
Absolutely. I think, well, like internet already made world smaller. Metaverse will do that even more, but also at the same time make it bigger, because we can kind of like build on it kind of like spatial experiences and so on. So yeah, absolutely, that will be kind of like I think that kind of like these teams working from different side of the planet it will become more easier and so on.
Yeah, and even like in a very practical like factory type of like blue collar work, the impact will be significant. We at ZOAN just joined this VTT research group. What is VTT in English? It's like this state-owned research center focused on technology. Anyway, and there we we identified many different ways how the metaverse can impact the blue collar work as well, like starting from a virtual training or using like AI assistants and all of that. But there again, like, it's very important that it's like human driven development, because the technology only doesn't make anyone happy, but if it comes from the real need to change that work. Like for instance, we have somebody here in like training to use a factory who doesn't speak Finnish. So inside a virtual training, you can pick any language you want, and you can learn much faster than just like watching a Finnish video with English subtitles, for instance.
Yeah, that is actually a big field that is growing already. We are working a lot with big companies who are focusing on how they can use virtual spaces or metaverse in their HR processes, how they is kind of like how they are present as an employer, and also for training and training the values of the company and all that kind of thing. So it's growing really fast.
So we're saying that that's assisting in culture building with hybrid working.
Yeah, I think.
So if we look at the idea that we can't really sort of pinpoint on this stage new industries that will emerge, unless we want to touch on that, if nothing comes to mind, then how can we prepare current industries to adapt to this change? What should they be thinking about right now?
Well, there are two things. Like as with any change process, you need to decide like what is your focus, like prioritize something. This metaverse is such a big thing that you cannot just take it like this. You can start deciding that I want to prioritize like creating revenue, for instance. Okay, I'll do some like AR-based activation, and that can be one thing. Or you can decide that I focus on training and will start working on that. So that's like prioritize something, focus on some area, and then also like decide that is it something that you want to, you know, launch for the bigger public, or you want to do internally. In real life, the companies that we work with, they very often decide that they want to do something internally, but then if it's like a brand company, for instance, they might want to start doing something, and then when they realize that this is great, they will make a version that they will then launch to the bigger public. And that's so great, like working with 3D, is that it gives you this playground that you can just make things better, and you can create new versions, or you can like decide to start learning in our own little virtual world, but then if the world becomes good enough, so you can open some parts of it to your customers, so that kind of things. But basically decide what you want to do and who you want to target. That's usually the best way to get started.
Yeah, that usually always is the thing.
Sorry.
No, I think that you are absolutely right. I also think that kind of like the basic rule of metaverse today is that there is no metaverse, but every company in this planet should be thinking about their role in the metaverse, as it is evolving at the moment, kind of like all the time. So even though there is nothing ready, nothing, that was too much to say, there are many different platforms that you can kind of like start going deeper to the metaverse and building your existence there, but there is kind of like, it's not a standardized thing yet. But anyway, companies are missing a huge potential if they are not starting to think about how they will be presented there, how they will communicate with their customers, connect with them, and kind of like start building their presence there. And I think that is, like Laura said, kind of like it can start from small and then scale, and that's typically how it goes.
And what brands do you think currently are sort of rocking it with transitioning and thinking ahead when you look at their plan for, you know, adapting?
Well, many examples. Our client Nike, for instance. But then, yeah, of course, like also Nordic brands like Volvo, they just opened in a metaverse, and I heard that their sales went up when they came up with their own metaverse. And then a lot of the big like fashion brands. Then we've already seen like a lot of industrial companies going to VR training. For instance, here in Finland at the Turku Mayor project where they built the big ships. So there's a lot of like a very progressive development going on. So
yeah, and there are companies that have been actually doing that for years already. So from our customers, I might pick up a few. For example, the dairy company Arla, they have been already, I think, for 5 years, they have been doing kind of like this different kind of first augmented reality and then going deeper into virtual experiences and so on. So it's kind of like consistent work of building their own way of being present in these virtual experiences and meeting the customers, and there are other as well. So I think that is one actually very important thing, is that if you start doing metaverse as a company or publishing something there, one-offs is not usually the best thing to do. It's good to try out, do different things, but then kind of like consistently do it again and again, so that the consumers actually learn, your customers learn that there is always something new to come back to. So then you don't invest a lot for building this virtual experience, and then it's kind of like, okay, we did that next, and it was a waste of money probably. But
well, and speaking of experiences, this same McKinsey report that I mentioned earlier found that more than 20% of the global population on a net basis say that they will spend more time exercising, working, reading, and shopping online in the future. And 10% of the population has already tried AR or metaverse dating. Which is, I mean, I'm not single anymore, but maybe could have had a go at it. And that 10%, a majority said that they actually enjoyed it more than the real life alternative. So if we're talking about building experiences, how do you think the average person is going to experience the metaverse?
Well, I think probably dating will be one of the first things that will happen there. But actually, that's interesting point, because for that where metaverse actually can make an impact, not just for dating, but for meeting people. Kind of like there are a lot of kind of like lonely people. You can meet new people there and get together with different kind of groups and so on that you maybe can't access where you are located physically, but you can actually jump into Brazil and go to have a samba party or something like that. So if that's your thing, so basically it's kind of like it makes it easier maybe to find your own groups.
Yeah, and it also, yeah, definitely, and it also, well, to be honest, I had like we were in Austin last week in South by Southwest, and there was this one guy who is very much in the metaverse, and he was like claiming that porn is the only way you can really use metaverse and VR headsets for something useful. Well, I think that there are other use cases definitely as well, but what I think it's important to understand like that there is like a difference between creating these 3D worlds or metaverses and then like distributing them. So many people will probably access metaverses like they do nowadays, like going to Decentraland or Roblox, just using a normal computer. And a lot of people use mobile nowadays. But then it's interesting to see if it will happen that for instance, Oculus headsets will become like a real household item, that it's something that every home has, and then, you know, if you want to explore the world or visit your grandmother virtually, so then you will use that. It can definitely happen, and it might not even take a long time, but sort of the content is always like the most important thing, and then this distribution is another thing.
Yeah. One area where we have found that actually metaverse or these virtual exhibitions or something is very, very well working is art. So the art field is anyway, it's going through a major digital leap at the moment, so for example, we do a lot of work with museums, and also we have this service virtual art gallery for individual artists where they can just set up their exhibition and launch it. And that has become quite popular because it's quite like really inclusive and democratic. No matter where you are, whether you have an art education or something, you can actually just load in your art and publish. So that's kind of like probably something that where actually many people enter first to these virtual spaces and metaverse is through some museum exhibitions or art gallery exhibitions or something like that.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely want to talk about inclusivity and equity within that, because we've mentioned the price, but that's not where this next question is going to go. That'll be a separate portion. But when we talk about emerging technology, there's always late adopters, right? Those who come from a fear-based understanding of what new technology is. I think my mom still calls it the internet, right? Or the internets with an S at the end of it. And so how can experience be created to help late adopters feel more comfortable in a virtual setting? What can be done, or what have you seen done that's really great for sort of the layman?
Yeah, well, I don't know if it's called like late adopters or parents or whatever that is called, but yeah, I mean, it's definitely like a big thing, and we've also woken up to the fact that if you talk with 15-year-old kids that are very that are gamers, or many of them are very native with, you just give them a metaverse and they start like going around and doing all kind of fun stuff, and you give that to an average 55-year-old who is like, how do I move forward and what do I do? So that really is an issue, and because how to help there. So we, for instance, how we do things is that we can, for instance, create this metaverse experience that is fully like a pixel streamed, free roaming, photorealistic experience, and then that is available for certain audiences. And then for other audiences, we do this a bit simplified, like a curated tour where you can click yourself through certain points, still get the same experience, same content, but maybe it's not as much fun.
I think you made an excellent point there, that there are kind of like many levels of metaverse experiences that you can do. So basically our focus is mostly on mobile. Because we have learned that actually, that even though it's actually a bit funny that, or strange that you have your small screen here and then something is happening there in 3D and you're actually focusing fully on that and almost not aware of what happens around you. Of course, it's not as immersive if you have a VR headset on, because then you are totally there. But then also kind of like the barrier of just picking up your own phone, scanning your QR code and being somewhere, it's much lower than if you have to put on a headset. But there are different occasions, different kind of needs and different kind of purposes for these, and kind of like I think that all of those are very important. So like you said, for different groups, for different occasions.
Yeah. And now it feels like what we just discussed with Emmi, that augmented reality has become like very familiar to many. So just scanning a QR code and enjoying the content, that's not something you need to teach to people anymore. They sort of realize what you can do when you have a QR code. So
COVID helped with that, right? With menus.
Yeah, it actually helped with quite many things.
Yeah, true.
I mean,
well, not politically correct, but well, that's the way it is.
Yeah. Well, I mean, this then sort of leads into the way that we learn, right?
Yeah.
COVID forced us to learn to use QR codes, but the way that we learn and educate ourselves is constantly evolving. According to a report by Pearson's, 60% of educators believe that virtual and augmented reality will become important tools for learning in and out of the classroom. So how can, in your perspective, how can VR and AR be used to enhance education, and what new opportunities will it offer for lifelong learning?
Well, I think that it's important for especially kind of like understanding that we are all different kind of learners. We have our own ways. Some like to read, some like to hear, some need to be doing things in order to actually kind of like learn. And most of us are kind of like need all of those different ways. But so I think that will give a lot of new ways. First of all, to maybe give peace also to the classroom. So when the students and even kind of like smaller pupils, they actually focus on something. So that might be something that actually makes it easier. But there has been a lot of talk that it's very noisy and loud in schools nowadays and nobody focuses. So I think that these kind of metaverse or virtual things, they actually help us to focus on the issue that is on hand.
Yeah, I agree. And well, some like maybe 4 or 5 years ago, we did some tests with school classrooms, and the kids really enjoyed the VR content and learning in VR. But the problem was that, you know, the teachers were not comfortable with the technology. So basically, they just thought it's too much a hassle with the VR headsets and all of that. But what I think that it's definitely inside the metaverse that sort of the future generations will learn. As an example, we have been working with the city of Turku, the new museum, the Museum of History and the Future that will happen in Turku in 2029. But already now, during the past 3 years, we've worked with them. We have built an exact virtual replica of the city of Turku, how it looked like in 1827 before it burned down, as most people, at least you guys from Finland, know that our former capital burned down at some point. And that's been made in collaboration with the university experts and so on. So now we have it, and the museum has it, but the museum won't even open until in a few years. So what they've started using it is, first of all, like using it for some augmented reality that people who visit Turku can see the Luostarimäki Museum and some content there. We've used it for projections. Some parts of it are available at digimuseo.fi, where people from Turku can go and see what existed on their home street back then. And it's still like we've only seen a fraction of the possibilities. What I would like to see in the future is that the kids can go there, learn how it was to live there back in the beginning of 1800s by living there, by doing those things that people did back then, and actually having more fun than just reading things from the book. So I think that those kind of learning environments will really be super exciting, not only for kids, but also for the future of like museums and heritage overall.
Yeah, and also you don't even need to be at Turku. I mean, of course, it's a lovely city, but you don't
Who wants to go there, right?
but you don't need to, because even if you are at, I don't know, at Rovaniemi, Lapland, it's very hard to. Maybe you don't have the time to go there or something, but actually you can still learn about how it was living at that time.
Yeah.
And we can learn about ancient Rome or Egypt or something like that. And so, for example, we did to Amos Rex some years ago this kind of like ancient Egyptian tomb, where actually you were able to. We worked with Egyptologist, how do you say that? And kind of like so it was kind of like as accurate as it could be. So it was a great learning experience. But of course, we cannot travel 2,000 years, 3,000 years back in time and visit there physically. So that kind of things, absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, something like that would have made learning Shakespeare a lot easier.
Yeah.
Especially if I could ask him a question. Why? No. So all this new technology has the potential to break down geographical barriers, is what we were just sort of talking about, and create more inclusive communities. However, it also raises concern about accessibility for people with disabilities and from those with from low-income families. And so how can we ensure, or what can be done to ensure that the metaverse is accessible, equitable, and inclusive? Let's talk about where we think it is now and where it needs to go.
Such a great question. I definitely think when it comes to equality and these kind of things, so it has a great potential. Especially when we start talking about not only like metaverse kind of experiences, but really going deeper into metaverses where you have your avatar that you identify with, that can be like a virtual twin of yourself, but it can also be something totally different. I've had so many interesting discussions with people who are thinking about like that avatar can be like well, non-binary, maybe even like non-gender, and how you can like maybe even identify more with your avatar than you do with yourself. And I think that Metaverse definitely gives these kind of possibilities that in the positive scenario you can build the life that you want inside a virtual world, no matter how your real life looks like. And I think that is super exciting and interesting to see where we go. And then, yeah, for the other part, for the equality and poverty and stuff like that, yesterday there was this UNICEF Web3 meeting, and we had good discussions about
here at Epicenter Helsinki.
Here at Epicenter Helsinki, every day. So there was this like a really interesting discussion about like that, how important are those mobile phones and internet connections, even if there is poverty, even if you need to share a mobile phone and so on. Of course, not every place has a 5G network, but I think that for many people the access will be first of all like mobile. It can even be like a shared device, but it's going to be important. It's going to be important for your social contacts. It's going to be important for your virtual identity and things you own, that kind of things.
Yeah, I think it's very important that we have, or we talked earlier, that we have different level of metaverses. So we can have these kind of like very crypto chain based, deep and high-end VR kind of like metaverses. And then we need to have the mobile use as well, because let's say like developing countries, there people usually have their smartphones, and that's the access, how they access bank or any kind of like all the services. It's the mobile phone. So that's kind of like a global thing. Not everybody, but most people already have their smartphones. So then that you will have access. I think that kind of like that is the first thing that we need to think about when we think about inclusive and democratic metaverses. But then there are also kind of like subgroups like that I'm kind of like very interested about. We work a lot with museums, and there is a lot of questions about, is this kind of like accessible for everyone? And there is a kind of like, I'm constantly thinking that how can you, metaverse in 3D, it's so visual, that what if you are having kind of like some kind of like difficulties in seeing or something, how can you actually enter the metaverse? How can you do create things there and so on? So we need to solve a lot of things in order to it actually be inclusive.
Yeah, I mean, I love the idea of identity in a virtual space, being able to sort of identify more with an avatar, you know, especially, I mean, if we look at the US and what's happening there with trans rights and drag queens, it's kind of...
Yeah, and I think like we've already like witnessed a lot of that with basic online behavior, like people have their online identities and you know, and what I also love about that was also something we discussed yesterday with UNICEF, that with the possibilities of the new type of value creation that blockchain and cryptos give to you, like, you know, programmable NFTs and stuff like that. So it's so exciting that you can contribute by giving money, you can contribute by giving your time, you can contribute by just being there doing something, and you can like get similar kind of credit for that within a community. So I just think this is also something that makes things more equal, that you can have mechanisms that allow you things and you don't necessarily have to have the money.
Yeah. I also think that there's one funny example of how kind of like, I mean, when we talk about that you can be something else that you are in the physical world, I needed to create an avatar for one event recently, and I used the Ready Player Me platform to create that, because I didn't have a ready avatar, and it was a little bit, maybe I need to send them a little feedback, because I felt that I couldn't create my kind of avatar. They were all such baby faces that they had there. There was an option that if I'm kind of like a woman or man or non-binary or something like that, I could even have horns if I wanted to and all that kind of things. But the only way I was able to look like not 20 was to add gray hair, and I didn't really feel comfortable with that either.
Yeah.
So kind of like, is it age discriminating? Is Metaverse only for young people? And kind of like, because I wanted to look like me, a woman in my 40s, not kind of like that I was in my 20s. So
Yeah.
that was just one.
Yeah, exactly. And like thinking about the metaverse where people cannot identify with their avatars, so I think it will have a huge impact. Like if you feel like that, well, that person isn't me.
Yeah.
And I think that's why it's so great the work that Ready Player Me is doing. But
Yeah,
maybe they should like add some like variety in the age of those characters. Not
Absolutely.
everybody wants to be 20.
No.
Let's switch gears to mental health. The metaverse has the potential to offer new opportunities for social interactions, which we've sort of talked about a lot today, and entertainment. But it also raises concern about the impact on mental health. Studies have shown that as we all know, studies have shown that excessive use of social media and digital devices can lead to feelings of loneliness, anxiety, and depression. So how do you see the metaverse being used as a positive force for mental health, well-being, and community building?
I think it's all about the content again. It's not the metaverse itself, it's technology or media or something. It's how you feel it. And of course, kind of like it can be bad for your mental health, or it can be healing experience. And of course, it's we come having this question, it always comes also kind of like that, how can you create the safe spaces there, and you mentioned dating earlier, so it actually might be that it's kind of like you feel more safe when you are doing virtual dating than when actually meeting in real life. But then again, if you do that for 10 years, I don't know how good that is for your mental health. So there is always kind of like different sides.
Yeah, I partly think that this discussion, what will this new thing, will it ruin all the kids? This conversation was when video games came and when TV came, I suppose. So partly there's always this being afraid of the new stuff. Then of course we know that social media is already super hooking, and this will be even more. So that is actually something that we have been thinking about a lot when developing like our own cornerstone land, that how can we make it a place where it's good for the human mind and good for the planet basically. And we have said no to, like, for instance, some plot owners that were focused on like sales of cannabis. Yeah, I understand that it's legal in California, but it is still controversial and it's not legal here. We don't want to do that. So those kind of issues. So of course they are big issues. I don't think that there is one solution, but at least you can decide that are there some rules, and who is this content for. And then another thing regards to the mental health part you said is that I think that this also has like a huge potential. Like there was just this study that people who have dementia, who don't have like a memory anymore, so that if they hear like a song from their youth, so they might get like back so much like vocabulary and things that they had already forgotten. So if we think about like songs, and if we think about what we discussed about this, taking people back to history, to their places where they used to live when they were young, I mean, what an impact it might have. I think that might be like totally amazing, just for people who are now just lying on their beds, have nothing to do, but still if you can activate the minds and, you know.
Yeah, exactly. And also I think that we have actually a good case example just 2 years back, when the schools were closed because of COVID. Many children were very lonely at that time. Kind of like they needed to stay home, maybe to see only one friend or something like that, maybe not at all if you had kind of like some illnesses at home and so on. But the kids were able to play online. So it was Fortnite, whatever. I mean, there is always a lot of talk that not too much game time or something like that. But I think that that was actually really good for mental health of children and teenagers, because that was a place where they were able to communicate and play with their friends. So I think that that is something that Metaverse will also do. It will bring people together. It will create new communities, kind of like these groups where you belong.
Yeah, you mentioned about hugging family from across the world, and you know, not being from Helsinki can be a little tough sometimes to not, you know, have your mom close or any of your, you know, best friends, and so that I see that, right, as a huge driving force for creating a positive impact, right, on mental health and well-being, being able to sort of create. I mean, of course, we have FaceTime and now, but there's something different about being in the same, you know, virtual space.
Yeah.
Yes, absolutely. I think that is important part of that, and it's also something that I mentioned earlier. The art world. Well, what we are trying to do is kind of like match the art creator and art lover, creating a community. And I think that there will be a lot of more different kinds of this. So not just your loved ones, not just your Tinder, but pals, but also kind of like that, even meeting strange people and all that.
Perfect. Well, I would love to open it up to the audience to see if we have any questions there. My lovely colleague Paulina has a mic because we are recording. So if you do have a question, please ask away, and just make sure you have the mic so that we can get it on.
Hello? Oh yeah, everybody can hear me. Cool. I wanted to ask, how do you see, for example, in Finland, you have this thing where a lot of people, unfortunately, older generation, feel lonely, and how do you see the progression of using AI and the metaverse to give them a safe space to have a companion, have someone to talk to, and things of this nature? How do you see this taking place, and do you see there? I see, but do you believe that there is a viable way of onboarding? Like you said earlier, there's different levels to the metaverse. So do you see it as a viable option to have an older generation to hop on the metaverse, to have someone to talk to not feel lonely, and all these things? And how do you see the progression in the future in this sector? Thank you very much.
Yeah, that was a really important questions and a good example. We have a lot of older people living kind of like in a very different part of the country where their children and their families are. So a lot of loneliness and kind of like, I think that the barrier there might be how we can actually help them to access these virtual spaces, and because sometimes it might be a little difficult even to open the internet and do some bank business or anything like that. But if that is solved, I think that there is kind of like a lot of potential. First of all, kind of like the Red Cross in Finland, they are doing a lot of this kind of friendship services. So if you can, kind of like we could have these virtual grannies and grandpas that you can meet online, not just their own family, but kind of like even kind of like meet other children or something, kind of like to have this kind of matches, or adults. So a lot of potential, but I think that there is a small technical barrier that maybe some kind of a home help would need to.
Yeah, or some like super simple headset when you realize that you put it on and you click here and then you get the connection. So I certainly believe there's a huge possibility, and they don't even have to be that old people, just people who live like in a remote place. I remember there was also an example during the pandemic that there was this old grandpa who was having a FaceTime with his grandkids who were visiting their old summer cottage, and the kids went fishing and they had grandpa with them showing the best places to catch a fish. And I just think that basically the technology is almost there, but of course if you feel like you are in the same space, or if you can go to visit some exciting place in a metaverse together, that's even better.
Because I just wanted to add on to, because I believe there's already a service where you spend time with senior people, and you get for a young person, a high schooler or otherwise, they can spend time with the elderly and just spend time and talk with them and these kind of things. So I really think there's a big opportunity there. I was just wondering, it's great to see that in the metaverse these are some concepts that are also considered when it comes to the elderly and solving this growing issue.
Yeah, and I love like when we have the metaverse with a lot of diverse content, so that you don't have to just speak to yourself, but you both can visit some exciting places, and so that's gonna be like a really groundbreaking thing.
Awesome, thank you.
I have a question. Yeah, I have a question. I love that. Yeah, my question is, I love the entire, like the whole idea of the metaverse, how immersive it is. But my question is, a VR headset runs about 2,000 plus. So the entry barrier is very high at the moment. Do you all see the prices of the VR headsets becoming more affordable, so it can begin to scale on a bigger level, or how do you see the future with that?
Well, aren't Oculus Quests now around like, I don't know, 300-400? If you just have that, that's a, yeah, somebody knows better than me. So that's sort of like almost like a Christmas present category. But then of course, like if you want to buy Varios or something super cool, so then you need to be ready to pay. But yeah, at least my Oculus costs some like few hundreds, and that's like sort of good enough for many occasions and also for kids. So, and I hope the prices will even come down a little bit more, so eventually it will probably be somewhere around 200 or so.
Yeah, probably will go even more down those prices. Well, I'm a big fan of mobile metaverse and all that. That's our focus. So it's kind of like we all have the portal in our pocket. So that's a good way to get at least started. It's a very easy access and low barrier way of entering. But of course, it has its limits. You cannot do really large scale photorealistic thing, maybe running on just on your mobile. Not yet, maybe later. And it's not, the level of immersion is not the same. We have to agree on that. But you can do a lot of already there. So I think that is. But about the VR headsets, yeah.
Yeah, you know, experiencing your first real like VR thing, it's something you probably won't forget.
Yeah. Are there any other questions?
Hi, Emmi and Laura. Thank you so much for the presentation and sharing your thoughts. And I liked your comment on there is no metaverse yet. All companies can move towards this. So kind of on that, it made me think of this question that given the metaverse is broadly defined as interconnected virtual worlds and experiences, yet as seen in virtual world industry, true platform interoperability challenges a lot of business models, right? How do you feel platform companies need to evolve to truly create an interconnected metaverse instead of using it as a marketing term to promote their closed standalone virtual worlds?
Well, that's $1 million question.
Yeah.
Were you about to say something? Do you have a solution for this?
No, I don't, but it's something that platform companies must think now, how they will actually create value for their users through the metaverse. It's of course we talk a lot about games and entertainment and that kind of things and marketing purposes, but in order to metaverse to actually really be part of our everyday life, it has to offer services that bring us value every day and is somehow better than the way we do it now. It needs to be, I don't know, easier, faster, whatever. So I can do my insurance things or my banking things or something. I can go to or taxis, do it on metaverse. How do they reply on that? I think that there is a lot of work to be done, but it was a very important question.
If I can imagine this, like our 5 cents to this discussion is that we are within the cornerstone, so we are creating this engine of the world that can one day become something that enables a lot of Unreal-based photorealistic metaverse to operate together. Or maybe they will merge with some others and then there will be these huge worlds. That is one possible way where this is going. But that will be also interesting to see, first of all, from the technical point, how is this interoperability thing gonna be solved, like transporting your avatar from one space to another. How will my photorealistic avatar look in Decentraland if I take it there? And then also like, secondly, putting all these business models together, how will it work? I probably would be somewhere else if I had an answer to that. But talking about like industrial stuff, it was interesting yesterday when it was announced that Microsoft and NVIDIA Omniverse will put themselves together and start working with the industrial metaverse. And we were discussing internally today that will there be, and there will probably be, these kind of clusters where certain companies work together for this kind of interoperable worlds, and then some other companies work together, and at some point you need to decide where you want to belong to. So yeah, that's all I can say about that. But a very good question.
Yeah, if I can add just that, I think that it's more than just kind of like how their current platform companies should evolve their business models and all. I think it's kind of like all of these disrupting technologies coming together, so including AI, including IoT, and kind of like and location-based services and that kind of things. How you actually combine them all together, that is the new business model, how you serve people in the future. It's not just the virtual and the metaverse, but how you add different things together. And that is going, I think that will be the metaverse eventually.
What a good chat. Hey, let's give a huge round of applause to Laura and Emmi. Thank you so much. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you. Thanks for inviting us.
Yes, and they're going to stick around for more networking and drinks, but I have a little more work to do up here, so please thank you so much.
Yes, thank you.
Okay, so we have discussed the societal impact of the metaverse on mental health and well-being, accessibility and inclusion, and education and learning. It is clear that this technology has the potential to transform our lives in many ways, from economic growth and job security to privacy and security concern. The metaverse presents both opportunities and challenges for our society. I want to thank our speakers once more, so please give another huge hand to Emmi and Laura. Oh, come on, you can go a little louder than that. There we go, there we go. Awesome, awesome. And just stick with me for like 2 more minutes, and then the music's gonna come on, and I'm gonna get my first glass of wine, and then there are some snacks that will be passed as well. We have some tapas for everyone, just as a reward for sticking through the event. So we have a couple of events to round out the month, and I hope that you'll bear with me again. So to end the month, on March 28th, we're gonna host our tech event. This is a series that we do once a month to look at various tech industries. We started with ed tech, then we went to health tech, and now we're looking at open AI and machine learning. So join us for a lively discussion. On stage will be Katja Metsola, who's the Vice President and Public Sector and Healthcare at Futurist, Ulla Lehtinen, who's the CEO of Dane Studios, Outi Jutsi, who's the Council Head of Public Procurement at Hannes Snellman, Finland, and Tessa Viitanen, who's the founder and CEO of Techie Stories. This was going to be a great one. On April 13th, Epicenter Helsinki and AmCham Finland will team up to host an event on the latest updates on the economic and investment relationship between Finland and the United States, where we are now and what is to come. Covering digital trade, energy, and more. We had a pivotal point and must build shared resiliency and move toward a sustainable transatlantic economy. So those are the speakers who will be featured there. And then on April 19th, come with me to Discotheque. On April 19th, join us for World Creativity and Innovation Day 2023. This year's theme for Epicenter is Discotheque. This is a UN-sanctioned event that celebrates global efforts to support innovation and creativity. During the afternoon, we're going to have 4 panel discussions. Epicenter will release its first ever impact report. We'll have a conversation on Metaverse and avatar tech and foreign talent. And then also talk about in the Web3 space, who owns what, when it means, and what it means to be a creator in modern times. Simultaneously, we're also going to have an expo where we've invited local tech companies to put their tech on display. We'll also have some like retro tech available too. And then after the summit and the expo, in this very space, will be the discotheque of your dreams. I put a call to action earlier in the week, but if you are a tech company and you have technology that you do want to display during our expo, just think of it as like a mini trade show. Follow me, find me, and we will build a sort of mini booth for you to do that in. We just ask that you're a little further than the idea phase. That's the one stipulation. Yeah? All right, so thank you so much for being here today. There we go. I thought we were on the same team. I thought we were vibing. Okay, perfect. Like I mentioned, my name is Joey. Epicenter community events are always open to the public and free to attend. Thank you once again, Laura and Emmi. Paulina, you can turn the music on. Please have more drinks, have some food, and thank you so much.
Let's close our eyes.